Hail, Internet! It's Theron, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here talking about Wheel of Time. We previously did a mid-season Wheel of Time recap. Here we're talking about episodes 5 through 8, kind of giving our end of the season recap of the Amazon series Wheel of Time. Just to bring you back up to speed, episode 4 ended with the false dragon Logain killing an Aes Sedai and being gentled, cut off from the source. That's where we had ended the previous recap. Everything from there forward is what we're kind of chatting about today. Before we launch into a bunch of stuff, Theron, good to see you again, by the way, sir. And
good to be here, buddy.
What were your thoughts on the second half of the Wheel of Time?
I guess that's my overall. There's a lot of problems, a lot of things that bothered me about it, and I find myself criticizing it more than I would like.
Okay.
Although I want it to succeed, I want it to be good. So I'm rooting for it.
Do you have like something that you appreciated about it, and then maybe follow that up with something that you particularly didn't like?
Well, I certainly appreciate the effort to make it. that's
fair enough.
Super general.
That counts. That counts.
Yeah, I mean, I do like this. For example, like the rise of the fantasy genre in media. That's great because back in our day, in the late 80s, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh,
oh my God,
that is not cool. Nowadays, you got celebrities playing in on Twitch and YouTube and stuff. It's mega cool.
We had the legit moment in high school where we were like passing modules, like TSR modules, in the hallway as though it was like. Look, man,
a drug deal or something like.
I got a rep to protect, so here's Desert of Desolation. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, so that was the state of affairs. You're right, in the '80s. So it is very nice to have like, oh look.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, the quantity of like good media now is amazing, and I was thinking about this too, kind of along the lines of the comment I just made. Like, imagine this if something like this had been produced back when we were in high school, we'd be like, oh my.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, right.
So the standards have gone up for sure, right?
Standards gone up, and the quantity, yeah. So I mean, it's just being produced all over the place, and I'm not complaining about a glut. Sometimes having too much choice is not good, but my time is limited, so I have to pick the creme de la creme. But I'm going for the fantasy.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest criticism I have is I'm not happy with the cast.
Okay.
Outside of Moraine,
Moraine. Go ahead.
Handful of the others I liked. I like Tom. I don't really have much of a problem with Lan, the Dashan, which in Chinese means Great Mountain. They call him that in episode 7.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, like the core quintuplet or whatever. I mean,
sure.
I don't really care for any of them. I have pet peeves. Each of them drives me crazy in some sort of way. And so I'm not happy with it. And I've made the comment to you before about when they got to the White Tower, White City. Mm-hmm. A lot of that looked very nice. The digital effects, the rendering of it was very nice.
Yep.
But the extras, they just didn't look like they belonged there. They looked like they were in middle school, or they go turn the street and head down to junior high or something like that.
Like they're cosplaying or something, maybe.
Yeah, so the immersion kind of I just couldn't quite get there with it. So that's my big one. And it feels, I don't know if it's a young team working on it or something, but that's my big criticism.
On your point about Moraine, so Rosamund Pike, I think, is the standout of the show for me. And since, in many ways, she is the face of season 1, I think in a lot of ways it's almost like she's the main protagonist practically. That's a very positive mark for the show. They cast a good Moraine, and her storyline is compelling, and so I think that is, for me, the thing that stands out as like, check, you pulled that off, well done, show. But I agree, I don't think it's the acting. I think these actors are all talented in their own rights. I do feel like the story has let some of them down, and it does feel there's a bit of like teen romance kind of thing going on, which is
I'm not a fan.
Like, for instance, I mean, we talked last time in the first half about Perrin and how they kind of just wrote in this wife that he killed and fridged that wasn't there, and I feel fairly confident. Maybe you tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't think that the books had this love triangle that this show is pushing between Perrin, Egwene, and Rand.
I didn't even catch it until they almost come to blows.
Right.
Like, what is this?
Right. But it's Egwene and Rand have a relationship, but Perrin has his own relationship with a character we haven't met yet. I feel like the show is just like, no, this would be cool if we have this like romance tension between the group. I'm like, okay, you're manufacturing a thing. I have a sliding scale for shows based on books, and for me, it's like, okay, if you're taking something from the book and it doesn't work, I give you a little credit. I'm like, you know what? I get it. It didn't work, but you tried, and it's in the book. Yeah. If it's not from the book, you have a higher standard to make it work because you're just creating a new thing. And if it doesn't work, I'm like, you did a lot of effort there for not a lot of payoff. And I feel like that's
and the gold standard there. The gold standard there, of course, at least for me, is the Hobbit movies. And you and I talked in depth about that.
Right, exactly.
So don't mess with it,
right?
Unless you're really confident you're going to pull it off.
Exactly.
Didn't pull it off.
And they didn't pull it off. Yeah, but Perrin in general, the character arc for him is just kind of all over the place. We'll talk about maybe a reason why in a second, but that got kind of sloppy. I mentioned at the mid-season recap that if this was the Amazon Lord of the Rings project, that I'd be mildly disappointed. I feel like I'd be even more disappointed after watching the whole thing. Like, I think my level of disappointment has risen a bit. If I'm watching it through the lens of Middle Earth, I'd be like,
for sure.
As you say, it's a fantasy epic. Some stuff actually it works in it, some doesn't. I did really like the flashback in episode 7, the flashback that opens episode 7, which is basically Rand's birth. So it's like his mom as an Aiel, she's fighting on dragon mounts, she's in labor, and so she has this like duality of like, I'm trying to stay alive, killing folk, but I'm also getting contractions. And anyway, that
was shot very well.
Very dramatic scene. Yeah, you're in the moment. You're with her in this just terrible set of circumstances she's in, and then we have Tam Althor, the adopted father, helping her with the birth. She dies, and that's how Rand is adopted. That scene was great.
It was tied together very well too. I don't know if it was in the same episode later or the 8th episode, but when they harken back to when he discovers, or when he learns, of course he knew before, in the books that he is the Dragon Reborn, he sees that scene again, or we see that scene played out, and we know that, that's him.
Right. Yeah. So what the show was putting on is the mystery of the Dragon Reborn is no longer a mystery for anybody. It wasn't really a mystery for book readers, but it's no longer a mystery. Publicly, it's Rand is the Dragon Reborn. So we got that established. It was an oddly understated reveal because it kind of comes out at the end of episode 7. There's this thing of like, well, if everybody goes to the Eye of the World, those who aren't the dragon are going to die. Yeah. And then, like, within 5 minutes, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm the dragon, so we can just leave everybody else and we'll go. It felt odd, and I think I might as well bring this up now because I think this is also why the Perrin story arc got clunky. It deals, I think, with the fact that this actor, Barney Harris, who was playing Matt Cawthon, has been recast. And we mentioned this in the mid-season recap that, hey, he's the character, the actor playing Matt Cawthon has been recast for season 2. And I was a little disappointed at the time because I thought he was killing it, really. For the first 6 episodes, I thought he was the best depiction of one of these major Two Rivers characters. Oh. But what I didn't realize at the time was that not only has he been recast for season 2, but he wasn't in episode 7 or 8.
Except for a cameo.
He's got a cameo, and I think that's repurposed footage. He doesn't have any dialogue.
Yeah.
And they have this really weird filtered version of Tar Valon behind him. So I think what happened is, like, apparently they shot episodes 1 through 6, and they went on a COVID break, as the world did. And when they came back to shoot episodes 7 and 8, he wasn't part of the shoot. For whatever reason, nobody has said, so we're not going to speculate. But for whatever reason, he wasn't a part of those 2 episodes. So that that is a major obstacle for anyone to overcome. You've got a major character that is unexpectedly removed from the final quarter of your story. I am quite sure the script had plenty of Matt Cawthon scenes. So I think part of this clunkiness, part of the reason why episode 7 ends with this like very kind of quick reveal of like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm the Dragon Reborn, so let's just go to the eye of the world. And why Perrin's arc is so odd, I think can be attributed to the fact that Matt Cawthon was pulled out. For instance, we have this scene that's kind of awkward where Perrin is fighting against Padden Fane. He's the peddler guy who ends up taking the Horn of the Lair. I think that was Matt Cawthon. I think that was supposed to be a Matt Cawthon, because if you think back to the first episodes, it's Matt that meets up with Padden Fane into Two Rivers, and they have a little, oh yeah, here, I've got something for you, blah 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 blah.
Okay, I couldn't remember who that was. I assumed it was Perrin because he's the one who made a big deal. I saw him in the street, and then he's the one fighting him.
No. Okay. I think they had to retcon it because they didn't have Matt anymore, so they were like, put Perrin in there. Anyway, so part of the clunkiness that we see here at the end, I do think, is they were struggling, and it's tough to know. I mean, I don't blame them for that. I mean, life happens and things happen. Maybe though, you consider then putting the show on ice for a while. I don't know. Maybe if you're desperate and your story's starting to collapse, maybe you're like, okay, let's just pull this back because we're making too many compromises in order to keep a schedule that maybe we need
Interesting.
to, Anyway.
Not knowing the story as in depth as you, I did not see that part as particularly clunky. I mean, the only disjointed part that I see now is what you just said. Like, it's Matt who meets the peddler. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
in one of the early episodes. Okay.
Padden Fane, very important villain going forward as well. So I remember how I mentioned that I thought they'd have to continually introduce characters each episode in order to keep up with the number of characters that are important. Well, they did. They gave us Loyal. They imply that he's dead. I don't believe it. He has a very important role to play going forward, so I feel like he's not dead, but mortally wounded and will be saved in some way. But that character, Min, the character who can see people's futures, she's got giant part to play in the story. Padden Fane is going to be an antagonist going forward throughout. Suan, the Amerlin Seat, she's got a big part to play. Tom Maryland kind of disappeared, but they introduced him enough to be like, he's coming back, get ready, he's a big character.
I remember that name coming up a lot among the main characters, too.
I remember particularly Tom was knowledgeable about the whole game of houses thing, that he was really knowledgeable about the politics of the world, and so we learn a lot about the different houses and the different royalty and such through him. So yeah, I think he'll probably be important coming up in season 2. They give us a glimpse of the Aiel, and they right at the end of the season they give us a glimpse of I have pronounced the name, the Senchan, the seafaring folk, right, on the big ships.
Oh yeah,
like those two cultures, the Aiel and the Senchan, are like giant plot implications. I mean, they're like huge portions of books are dedicated to both of those cultures. So again,
I did like the way the season ended with the shot of the whatever they're called on the boats raising the tidal wave. That was a very nice shot.
I don't want to get too book spoilery. I mean, I'm probably going to spoil some stuff from the books anyway. But anyway, that's a big plot implication, and you saw there. I don't know how clear it was, but basically you've got the people that are standing in front of the boat with things over their mouths, like they're restrained in some way, and then people behind them channeling. It's a kind of they use people's abilities to channel. They can basically use them as pets to siphon off their power so they can use their power anyway. And so they're going to be in conflict with the Aes Sedai for that reason. We got the Horn of Valere is introduced, which is supposed to summon the world's greatest heroes. Spoiler alert, probably will do that. So
Horn of Gondor.
The Horn of Gondor. And that's just literally just a fraction of the things that they're going to have to keep introducing. Going to have to keep going in order to keep up. So they did that pretty well, actually. They kept introducing stuff. They're like, all right, this is all going to be important. Thing they didn't really introduce briefly mentioned a thing that I think maybe it was Lan had some figures or something, but it's the Forsaken. These are like the apostles of the Dark One, essentially, and all of them are important, and we haven't really met them yet. Although I'll say this, yeah, I'm getting a little spoilery here, but so it seems like, oh look, Rand is against the Dark One, and then he may or may not defeat him there in the end. That is not the Dark One.
Are we supposed to know that?
See, I don't.
One thing I noticed, because I was like, man, did I fall asleep or something? I thought for sure that was supposed to be the dude in the business suit with the light bulb eyes.
Business suit.
He is definitely intended to be the dark, or they're pulling a fast one on us, because like first in a trailer or not a trailer, a summary of episode 7, it says the Dark One. When Moraine says that, it shows a picture of that dude. I'm like, okay, they're clearly saying this is the Dark One. And it's in episode 7 in a couple places. When he is mentioned, it is clear they're associating it with that person. So, unless this is a psych, that is supposed to be the dark one. And maybe we just gave a spoiler away if that's one of the Forsaken. It didn't spoil me when you told me that.
Gotcha. Well, we do get a clue in that Moraine says this is not the last battle. All right, so she does.
Oh, that was the very end of the. But he wasn't necessarily defeated. I can't remember now. He wasn't defeated.
Yeah, he gives a little smile.
Didn't turn to the dark side.
Yeah,
to the dark side. He didn't pull Anakin Skywalker.
I think they're playing a little different with the rules of how the Dark One is imprisoned here. Like in the book, there's like the seven seals, but there's like he's sealed, and then over time the seals get broken, and then he gets he can become free. Here it feels like they're saying like there's just like one big seal, and maybe in theoretically destroying or casting away the Dark One, so to speak, Rand accidentally corrupted the seal a little bit, because you see like the floor of the Eye of the World gets like little cracks through it or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing that maybe that's the intent, was for this character, this villain, to encourage Rand to use the power in this area to thus weaken the seal, maybe, on the Dark One's prison, is my guess.
I thought that scene was very well shot too. I liked the flash forward in time with Egwene and the Joya, the little baby, and then when they froze in time and the temptation. I thought they shot that very well. Of course, I had no doubt what was going to happen, so there was really no suspense.
Right, but it was interesting too how he was like, "Oh, this is the perfect life," except this isn't. This version of Egwene is not reacting the way that the person I know would act. So I don't like this. I like that. That was a reasonable resolution to that.
Now, again, to the casting, what I didn't like, that guy with the beard. I mean, I'm sure he's a fine actor, but I was like, it just felt like he's talking to a businessman who's tempting him with like, "I will give you this wonderful contract. Just use your power to," whatever.
Right. He came off as a little too like
this business deal.
Like, look, I'm going to sell you a car, and I'm whatever.
You can make him look a little more evil. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just it didn't work for me.
Coat and then the weird mask looked a little odd. I think they're trying to go with the black and white idea, and because of the Sadine and the Sadar. But
well, there's clear Asian culture, loads of them in this. I guess it's the books, not necessarily the TV show.
Well, I was going to mention in beginning of episode 8, we are introduced to a flashback where we where we see the dragon 3,000 years ago lose Theron.
There we go.
Which I was just thinking about your name in Chinese. Theron spent several years in China, and I'll let you tell the story. But basically, your name in Chinese has a certain translation.
Sai Long means better than the dragon.
Oh, yeah. Better than the dragon. So
thanks, my friend Michael from China who gave me that name. Oh, yeah, because it sounds close to Theron, Sai Long. So tippy cap. I just talked to him the other day. Anyway. All right.
So it all comes back to Wheel of Time. Is what it does. Theron, better than the dragon, baby. So that flashback is interesting because there is a similar flashback at the more or less in the prologue of Eye of the World. It goes back to lose Theron at this time. What's I think unfortunate is this version has him talking with the current the Amerlin seat of the day, and they're arguing about, hey, you shouldn't go and screw with the Dark One, and I'm going to do it anyway, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it was a little talking heads kind of thing. The version, the time that they focus on in the book, in the prologue, is shortly after that, when everything's gone wrong, and Theron is basically losing his mind, and it's much more dramatic, and like that scene would be really interesting to see. It would be very cinematic, and I don't know why they chose to like not show that, like, you know, take the obvious if they're going with the book anyway. Anyway,
they might be saving it for later.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
They could totally do that. And what you say, it sounds like that could be a fantastic scene. And I like that opening scene. It's very cool. They cut to the window, you see spaceships.
Yeah, and that's very book-like, because once upon a time the world was more technologically advanced, and yeah. That was a neat little. By the way, this is what was lost, kind of thing. So that's really, really cool.
It's a reference to Visionaries.
Our favorite cartoon that nobody watched. Oh, yeah. Great point. Actually, has a lot to do. That's great.
I bet you we will see that, assuming that the future episodes are coming. I'm sure they are.
Yes, season 2 is already booked. Good. So they're doing it. So you're right. They'll keep going through that chronology, almost certainly. So we'll see more on Theron. I liked we were talking about flashbacks that are effective. The flashback to Suan in her, like, growing up as a girl in a modest fishing village, and she's learning how to use the power to, like, catch fish, and her relationship with her dad, and she doesn't come from royalty. And so to see her relationship where she and Moraine have a relationship, and secretly they're trying to basically guide the last battle to a successful conclusion, but publicly she has to exile Moraine so that Moraine can stay with the Dragon Reborn and bring all this stuff about. So all of that I thought was really effective. That the duality of, like, secretly I care about you, but publicly I have to punish you in a terrible way. I thought that was really, really effective. And so at the end in Faldara is another place from the books, and it makes sense that and it's near the Eye of the World. When we see the women link up and basically take out a whole bunch of Trollocs, but also burn themselves out. Again, I felt clunky, like maybe again they were trying to do some kind of filler thing. It didn't quite work for me. Plus the fact that it seemed that Nynaeve died, that she burned herself out, and then
I know. I was like, yes, come on.
I know you weren't a big fan of that character, but then Egwene brings her back to life, which resurrecting people. It's not something you just toss about casually in this story. So if that's why they went, it's kind of like, oh boy, you're introducing that ability really early.
It's cheapening it. Yeah, it's cheapening it way too fast. I mean, one of the problems I have is it's suddenly these little dorks from this village are so powerful, it seems. And then they died. Nope, psych, they're back.
Oh yeah, the fake out deaths. No, that was one of them. But
they gotta fix that.
The thing, Lan gets killed back in episode 4 by Logain, but then Nynaeve heals him back. We have the dream fake out where Moraine appears to die, but then it was a dream. Like they run the fake death. It's fine to have a fake death or two, I suppose, in a show, but if you do it multiple times, and I didn't put a counter on it, but several times they did fake out deaths. It feels a little cheap in that what you're trying to do is go for like the emotional, oh my god, that person's dead, but then also going, but the character's still alive, so it's fine. Like, you don't have any consequence. You're just doing little shocks.
Can't do that.
Yeah, minimize.
There's lots of that stuff they've got to fix. They got to fix the fake out deaths.
Yep.
They got to fix the entrails. Too much of that. Got to fix the stabbings through the mouth. We're going to start taking an intro count. Although I have to say, I don't recall seeing.
It's true. That was more of a first half of the first half of the season.
Stop. They got to stop the teen poutiness and arguing. They got to stop the ask a question and the person who feels uncomfortable refuses to answer. That's nonstop. Like, I don't remember any questions like, "Oh, what was your dream? Dreams are important. I won't let it come true." Like, answer for once. Everybody.
Just Answer the questions you're asked, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, does everyone have to be a pouty and ignore and like not try to work together? It's like, stop. You make those fixes, you're going to have a lot better show, I think.
Okay.
Because they are doing like the flashbacks well. They're kind of and I'm going to have to go back and do a whole second watch just to catch a lot of the stuff now because I can't recall the story so well from the books. But I think they are like piecing little bits and pieces together because the stuff that you've told me has filled in the cracks that I didn't understand before, and it's making me say, "Oh, I'd like to see that again just to learn more about it, to get my better understanding of the whole overarching story."
Nice.
So that's cool.
To that point, I think they are doing a reasonable job on trying to introduce lore. I think they would have loved to have more episodes. If you were to ask the creative team, hey, how many episodes would you like for season 1? They probably would have said more than 8 in order to get out the amount of story that they have to get out. So with that restriction, and then the Matt Cawthon curveball, I feel like they did manage to get out at least a lot of lore, at least put it out there for people to go, oh, what's that about? So I think it's a positive. And you're right. I think the show can improve. They've done a lot of these introductions now. So maybe they can just start doing story and less meet this person. But it wasn't an auspicious beginning. So I'm crossing my fingers that the Amazon Lord of the Rings project, if you want to call it the Middle Earth project, they need to have a name for it, frankly, but the Tolkien Amazon project has a higher first impression. Way
higher bar.
Yeah, like
way
first
higher.
Impression, boom. I want to come out of that. Yeah. I was writing in a comment to somebody about this the other day because they were asking me a question kind of similar to this. And it's like what I want out of the Lord of the Rings series is I want to feel, this might be unrealistic, but that's what I'm going for. I want to feel like I did coming out of Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh,
right.
That is an extremely high bar.
It is.
That was.
But it happened, right? It's not like I'm not talking about something that happened in a dream.
That is the bar, but to do that again,
yeah, I know. But like just to be like,
also,
oh my God, did I just see that? I mean, whoa! Middle Earth realized on the screen that I can't wait for Two Towers. Like I want to be like, I can't wait for episode 2. Obviously, huge bar, but that's what I want. And this series did not provide that. And will the Lord of the Rings series provide it?
I'm trying not to set myself up for that. I don't see how that can be surpassed, especially since even big screen versus streaming. Big screen has such an advantage of the immersion.
That's a good point. Plus, there were all those people in the theater, and everybody was just going nuts. And yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. The environment. Plus, I don't know if you could pull off something like the Lord of the Rings the way it was done back then nowadays. I don't know. Maybe with comments on the internet and people trying to direct it in certain directions and stuff. I don't know.
Okay, I hear you. I feel like, how about this? I'll amend it. If my feeling coming out of Fellowship of the Ring was 100, if I could have this series give me an 82, something like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to get all the way there, but boy, if you could get me most of the way to that feeling, then I'll count it as a success.
Same here. I am not going to expect Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings perfection.
Okay. Fair enough
from this.
All right,
but it's going to be high, damn high. I mean, if it's a Wheel of Time quality, I'm going to be like, dah.
Yeah, I know. For watching Wheel of Time,
that's not a diss on Wheel of Time. It's just that it's Lord of the Rings, right? It's Tolkien. It's not anybody else.
We're coming at it from Tolkien nerds, and with high expectations for that. My expectations for Wheel of Time were a little less, and so I'm not as like I enjoyed watching the first season. It wasn't perfect, but I watched it all and was interested to see how they were going to wrap it up. So
I think I will try to go back too. I'll go back and review it.
Nice. So yes, there will be a season 2. We'll chat about it when it comes out. And for those waiting on the Amazon Lord of the Rings, that's supposedly September of 2022. So we're coming around for it.
One little thing, did you notice like in episode 7, the way when they were walking through that, like the bottomless pit and all that? It was a very nicely shot scene. You know what video game it looked like that you and I played? DOS 2! Did it?
DOS 2, very good. Yeah, Divinity Original Sin 2. Great game, by the way.
It had those scenes where like you would go and get these extra powers, or you would learn more about the source and stuff, and it had those like hexagonal pillars all over the place.
Right. Good
I was
point.
like, it's DOS 2! That's my final thought.
Okay, very good. In the ways, that is from the books. It's basically like a shortcut to get from point A to point B, but it's corrupted by the black wind, the Machin Shin, which is this force that it's like an entity that can drive you crazy, essentially. And so it seemed like that's the way they worked in the fact that Rand finally acknowledges that he's the Dragon Reborn. It was kind of funny. It was like, don't believe what this wind tells you. And then the wind tells him, like, you're the Dragon Reborn. He's like, I think I'm the Dragon Reborn. I was like, what? You weren't supposed to believe it. You're supposed to lie to you. Anyway, it was just kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, good point. A little DIY. We have actually, I'll put it in the comments, or put it in the description. We've got some great highlights of us playing DOS 2, which might actually include some of that footage. I don't know. But anyway, I'll put it in there. It's pretty damn funny. But any case, thank you as always, good sir. We'll be back. I got some watching to do on The Witcher Season 2 because you and I are going to be talking about that, but I'm not prepared for that just yet. So you're going to be taking the lead on that one, baby.
No.
But we'll be back talking about that stuff. So thanks as always, good sir. Thank you so much. Better than Dragon. Cylon.
Enjoyed it, Haas.
Awesome. All right. Bye, everybody.